Hi guys, my name is Timothy Roberts. I'm professor of saxophone at Shenandoah Conservatory in Winchester. And it is time for VMEA, All Virginia band auditions again. And the faculty at Shenandoah is taking the time to make these short little videos on each of the instruments' audition music for you to help you have a better audition. This year is the rotation E version of the music. The music rotates each year. This excerpt was written by Robert Wall. I'll play this for you, and then we'll come back afterwards and talk a little bit about it and give you some tips on what you can do to play it better. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this piece and give you some tips on what you can do to play it better for your audition. The first thing to remember about these All Virginia pieces is that they're not your standard Fairling etude or Voxman exercise. You need to change the way that you think about standard etudes in order to play this one well. It's not the kind of piece that you would play on a college audition or on a recital. It's written to only show in about 60 seconds that you can master quick changes in key, time, articulation, style, character, etc. Don't try to perform it any other way. You're not performing this like you're trying to entertain an audience. You're only trying to play this academically. If you auditioned for the All Virginia Band in 2020 or last year 2021, I think you're going to find that this year's music, this is called rotation E. There's 5 of these different rotations. I think you're going to find that this piece is a little bit easier than the last 2 years. That's not necessarily good news. It could mean less technical preparation required for this year, but it's also going to mean that that if you make a small little performance mistake in the audition, it's going to cost you more than it might have in years past. So you want to be very careful in how you prepare this this etude. Be really particular to every single performance instruction that the composer gives you in this etude. Let me give you a couple examples. So the only fortes in this are written in the B section. I've put this in an ABA form quickly. The A section is the first 8 bars 1 through 8. The B section starts in bar 9, goes through bar 17, and then kind of an A prime section. The second A section starts in bar 18 and goes through the downbeat of 25. Then we've got a little 3-bar ending there that's not part of the form, just kind of a closing section there. So if you think about the B section, here's a couple examples of just some performance instructions that I would pay particular attention to. So looking at the B section, the only fortes in the whole piece are in the B section. So make sure that nothing that you play in either of the A sections has any perception of being louder than the fortes in bars 10, 12, and 13 in the B section. Also, as I was preparing to play this for you, I couldn't understand musically why there's a decrescendo at the end of bar 14. So you could question why it's there, or you could just make sure that you do it well so that you don't lose any points. It's one of the instructions that you've been given. So just do the decrescendo at the end of bar 14. There's a few places like this in the piece. You might not understand why it's there, but you've got to do it because the judges are going to be listening to you doing everything that's on the paper. Okay, we talked about the ABA form of the piece. The first A section, these first 8 bars, I would separate it into 2 4-bar phrases. Put a breath after the D in the 4th bar to break the section in half. And then within both of the 4-bar phrases, build up your dynamics and your momentum for 2 bars, then bring them back down for 2 bars. And so you're going to do that twice in the A section. So the B section starts in bar 9. It's a little longer than the A section, though it ends in bar 17. But unlike the A section, the B is really made up of 2 distinct ideas. It's not just one phrase. So take a big breath and make a big style distinction after the high D in measure 12. And then when you start back up on the last G sharp, the piece almost changes into kind of a military march until the B section ends at the D in measure 17. So you make sure you play these 5 bars with some aggression and a little bit more separation than you used in that opening statement. The third A section, starting now in measure 18, it's just a variation of the first A section, the first 8 bars. So do the same thing here, separating the 8 bars into 2 4-bar phrases. Make sure, by the way, in measure 20, the 16th note at the end of bar of beat 2, make sure that rhythm is different than the triplets afterwards. The tendency is going to be to play this bar. That's not the right rhythm. It's a 16th note and then sextuplets after that. So make sure that you've got that rhythm, that you differentiate on that rhythm. Okay. Then look at the last 3 bars. They're just a little ending there outside of the form of the piece. Really make those last 3 bars sound different. Use these last 3 bars as an opportunity to show off a beautiful sound and a rich vibrato. You haven't really had a chance to do that so far in this piece, so show the judges your sound and your style and your emotion in those last 3 bars. The last 3 eighth notes in particular are really a chance. You've got a molto retard written above them. Make sure that you really use that opportunity. When you get in that audition room, when you play those last 3 notes, you might think you're playing them slow enough. You probably aren't. You can play them, take much more time than you think that you're taking. I have a new Selmer Supreme instrument. Hopefully some of you do too, or maybe you have the Series 3. So this last comment I'm going to make won't apply to you if you have a Series 3 or a Supreme. But if you have any other instrument, make sure you cover that last C sharp with the octave key of the 3rd finger of the left hand. My horn, I don't need that. It actually alters the pitch too much. But listen to the difference in the pitch on that last C sharp. So make sure you put those 2 keys down to keep that pitch where it needs to be. Then after you finish the note, finish that last C sharp, keep the mouthpiece in the mouth and keep the air going through the horn even after the sound ends. There's 4 steps to releasing a slow, pretty note. The first one is you stop the vibrato. The second one, you actually stop the sound. Then you stop the air coming out of your mouth, and then you release the mouthpiece from your mouth. So listen to this, see if you can pick up on the 4 steps on this last note, and I will take the pickups going into the last note. Okay, 4 steps to releasing the last note. I've got some fingering suggestions for you to help smooth out some of the technical areas. When you hit the G sharp in measure 7, you may have noticed I actually had my C sharp key down rather than the G sharp. and I kept the C sharp down through the entire 8th bar. So that will help you because you're going back and forth from the G sharp and then you're ending on the C sharp. If you just keep this G sharp down, you don't have to worry about fingering that last note. So the C sharp down all the way through the end of the 7th bar into the 8th bar. It also helps reduce key noise, okay? Measure 15 and 16. I'd use the regular fingering for F sharp. Don't get involved in the fork F sharp because you're going to be going back and forth. It's going to be awkward. So just use the F sharp. And in measure 16, I would use, at the beginning of 16, I would use the side C key for the first 3 B sharps. Breathing, very important in this one. Decide on and mark in advance where you plan on taking your breaths. Don't get in the room and wing it where you're going to breathe, because you will be nervous in the room, and things happen when nerves are involved. Just know in advance and always practice this piece when you're running through. Always take the same breaths. Mark them in advance where you plan to do them. I have some suggestions for you on where you can do that. Just remember, a breath doesn't have to be at a rest. It can be anywhere that breaks a musical idea. You can breathe in the middle of a slur if you need to. Just make sure that it breaks an idea, that it separates an idea. Some of you might be able to circular breathe. That's great. If you want to try to do that, assuming that you don't want to do that, here's some places where you can. We've talked about some of these already, but breathe after the high D in measure 4 and at the end of measure 8. Breathe after the high D in measure 12. Breathe at the end of measure 15. In measure 17, breathe after the D. Measure 20 after the D. And then, of course, the most important one is measure 25, breathe after the low C sharp. That's going to set up that big, beautiful ending that we just talked about. You may also want to add a breath in somewhere like in 22. You could kind of do it at the end of that bar, or you could do it after the dotted quarter. You got to be careful if you're going to do it at the end of the bar, but you could pull it off because the rallentando goes through the whole bar. Let me show you what you could do. That might be an idea. Okay, that could work as long as you make a distinct beginning of the idea at 23. All right? If you're not going to put a break there, if you're not going to sell the break in the phrase there, then you need to breathe after the dotted quarter, which would be... Let's see the difference in the two ideas there, but there's 2 different ways you could do 22 and get a breath in there. Now, so that's some specific information, suggestions that you can do on the piece. Now, thinking outside of the music itself, and I say this every year on these VMEA videos, and I think it's just as important for the preparation of this piece. You need to remember when you get in this room why you're in the room, and you need to be grateful for the ability to take this audition. And the reason that's important is that you can't be nervous and grateful at the same time. If you're truly grateful for why you are in this room playing for the judges, that you are in there because you've made it this far, you've got a talent and ability that very few other saxophonists in the state of Virginia have, and you're there to share your talents and your ability with these judges to see what happens at the end. Just be grateful for why you're in there, and enjoy yourself in there, and you won't be nervous. You can't be. I hope this helps. These videos are always enjoyable for the instrumental faculty at Shenandoah to make for you all, and I hope they are of some assistance to you. I'll put my contact information, my email address at the bottom of the screen for you. Good luck. Let me know after the audition if this video helped you or any suggestions that you might have. But good luck, and stay in touch with me if you have any comments or suggestions.